If you've ever told yourself that your social media posts or your emails are taking too long and that it's holding you back or stopping you from doing something else or it's a waste of your time or you really just don't like doing it, then this micro episode is going to blow your mind. So you know what to do. Grab your brew. Let's dive right in. Welcome back to the Be More Lobster podcast. And today I want to give you a micro episode talking to you specifically about the model that you run, so the thoughts and the feelings and the actions and the results that you get and you take based on how you're thinking about social media. And this is coming on the back end of a conversation that I had with a client last week, but also something that I've heard over and over again, and definitely something that I've said to myself. So the conversation that I had with my client was around the fact that it was taking her at least an hour to write a social media post. And she actually said the words like, it's such a waste of time. And here are the questions that I asked her. I'm going to suggest you might want to write these down and answer them for yourself. So the first one, as I said to her, how is any time invested in your business a waste of time? Now, the reason I asked her that question is because our brain will naturally just offer us complete BS based on frames of reference we don't even know that we've got. Like, it's an unconscious thing. So when you ask a question like, how specifically, this is great self-coaching for you, how specifically is any time invested in my business a waste of time? You've got to go to work to find reasons to support that. I cannot think of one reason why any time that I invest in my business is a waste of time. Actually, I'm going to give you a caveat to that. The caveat would be that if I was investing time in my business and taking time away from something else that was important, like my family or my health, right? And that happened consistently, then I'd be like, it's not a waste of time, but it's not the best use of my time. But I was reflecting back her language, a waste of time. So I want you to answer that question. If you ever said that, then how specifically is any time that you invest in your business, how is it a waste? The next thing I said to her was this, roundabout kind of way, because it's a couple of weeks ago now. I'm actually really impressed by how much you care about what you're putting out there in the world. So I'm just curious what you're thinking that makes you feel so different. Now, if you've listened to last week's episode, if you haven't, you need to go listen to it, because I give you 8 reasons why your business might feel harder than it actually needs to. And it's going to speak to this particular thing here. What was she thinking that made her feel like spending an hour writing a great post was a waste of time? What made her think that it wasn't a great space of showing care and being conscientious about what she puts out there into the world? What was she thinking that was different? Okay, because what this does is it loosens the grip on the thoughts that create limitation in your life, in your business, and how you feel. When we can start to loosen the grip, we can loosen the limitation, and we start to open up options that we couldn't see before. So the next thing I said to her was, well, what would make the time investment worth it? What would make the time investment worth it? And clearly, like, what would make it worth it is if you got a sale off the end of that one post. But here's the thing. The following week, when she came to a coaching call, she shared how somebody had made contact to have a consultation call with her. And she asked where they'd come from. And it was a leaflet that she had put in a cafe probably about 18 months ago. So what she was allowing her brain to offer her was that because she didn't think she was going to get a consult from this thing, or that she wasn't going to get traction from this thing, that it wasn't worth it. And that's when we have to go back to thinking, again, back to last week's podcast, about the progress, about the journey rather than the goal. If you hold a thought that every single word that you put out there lands where it needs to land and somebody's going to benefit, and that maybe somebody won't buy today, maybe they won't even buy it this year, but that's not to say they won't be here in a year's time. My coach said something amazing to me this week, and I loved it. And she was talking about the 3-year buy cycle. And she said, you're not just selling and now. You're talking to people now who might buy from you a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. We have to get out of this instant gratification mode. So that question about what would make it the time investment worth it was a really good question to go with. And then The other thing that I was actually genuinely curious about was if she wasn't spending time doing the social media posts, then what else would she be doing in her business? How else would she think that she would use her time more effectively? Let's have a little chat about that. And then I offered her something that really offered me an instant perspective shift from my coach when she shared it last month, I think it was. And I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, but she said it's your job as a CEO of your business to think about your clients, to literally schedule time to think about your clients, their current experience, their blocks, their desires, the reasons why they believe they don't have what they want yet, the barriers that they might have to your particular solution, the gaps that they have in trust of themselves, in you, in your process, or gaps in their knowledge, or gaps in their perception. It is actually a time investment that will pay dividends months and years from now. And that can only happen when you're running the belief that this time investment is worth it versus this is a waste of my time. What we went on to do there is I offered her what I call, but actually a term that my coach phrases called intentional thought creation. And I had her go off and start to write some things out. And the questions that I had her start with were things like, why is this a very valuable way to utilize my time? Why is doing this in the best interest of my clients and of my business now and for the long term? What do I need to think more regularly to embody the decision to practice writing great copy? Because here's the other thing. It's an actual skill set. If you follow me on social media, which if you're not, why not? Just saying. My copy really isn't that great. And I'll tell you why. Because I spent a lot of time thinking it wasn't a good use of my time. Because leading back to last week's podcast session, I was so heavily involved in the doing rather than the being. If I wasn't churning something out, if I didn't have something tangible to see for my time, it didn't feel of value to me. But that kept me spinning my wheels about my content and marketing for a really, really long time. And I don't want to say that I'm playing catch up now because that doesn't feel like very helpful in my brain. However, I do recognize that it takes a lot of brain power and a lot of motivation that I had to generate to sit and learn more about my clients and about writing great copy. And I'm willing to give it that time. So another question I could have given her is, why are you willing to give it this time? Why are you willing to let this be a skill set that you're prepared to do? You see, the thing is, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent now, but we spend all this time and money honing our craft. I have zero drama about investing in another course, another program. I freaking love learning. I love learning things that I love. Not such a big fan of learning things that I find hard and that I don't love, like writing good copy. So if that's you, you are not alone. And as the CEO of your business, it's going to just have to be one of those things you've got to suck up. So when you can create intentional thoughts around it, around why it's the most valuable thing to do, why it deserves the investment of your time, how you can make it feel more fun and more engaging and more curious, you'll have a very different experience of it. So there we are. That's my micro podcast for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember, if you like this podcast, I'd love to get a review from you. And make sure you're following me over on Instagram. You will find my link in the show notes. And I'll speak to you again next week. Have a great one.